Well, hello. Here it is then. The World Cup is upon us. Whether you're gripped by excitement at the prospect or won't even watch a single minute of it, you'll be aware that the event is not without controversy. Both FIFA and the Qataris have recently had a lot of mud thrown at them. This is understandable, bearing in mind what's gone on. But I'm put in mind of an old saying from my curate, who used to come out with, point a finger at someone and you've got four pointing back at yourself. A lot of criticism in this world is unthinkingly spewed out by people who ought to take a long, hard look at themselves before firing off at others. For instance, you can understand concern about the general welfare of, and number of deaths in, the migrant workforce that's been brought in to build the stadia and the hotels. But who's complaining? The Western media mainly. And who in this world lives the most comfortable lives among humanity? The West. And why does the West enjoy the world's highest standard of living? In part because we built our wealth on empires, which exploited cheap labour and in some cases implemented slavery on an industrial scale. Now, two wrongs don't make a right, but the last nations to complain about the exploitation of the poor are those who founded their wealth upon it. Alongside finger pointing comes naivety. Complaints have been made about bribery. No doubt bribery helped the Qataris win the World Cup competition. But if we're even as much as surprised about that, we really ought to get out more. We are blessedly free of bribery in this country. Across the world, particularly in places where officials face the end of the month not knowing how much of their salary will actually be paid, it's normal practice. I've taken my brother's funeral since I spoke to you last. He used to regale me with tales of hour-long shouting matches with immigration officials who expected payment in return for reasonably efficient service. Worse than naivety comes what I call cultural imperialism, which demands that the world around us thinks, speaks and acts like we do, because of course we are right. You'll know what I'm talking about from what's happening in our own culture. Small, sometimes unrepresentative, but very loud minorities are shouting at us, telling us what pronouns to use, and trying to make us feel guilty if our beliefs and behaviour don't line up with theirs. It is a menacing threat to freedom of speech and freedom of thought, right across the Western world. Did you see what happened to a Greek footballer, Vasilis Siatis, who criticised Greek gender identity laws? He's been fined and sent to prison for 10 months. It is the same noisy lobbies who are now trying to reap self-righteousness by lecturing the Qataris for not being politically correct. Would you know, these foreign Johnnies actually have the nerve to frown on homosexuality. Well, so actually does most of the world, and in ages past as now. It's only 55 years since homosexual activity was legalised in this country. The Qataris come from a completely different religious background and a completely different history to ours. It will be very surprising if their outlook on life was anything like ours at all. In Revelation chapter 7, we see the people of God gather to worship him, and we're told they were a great multitude that no one could count, from every tribe, nation, people and language. If we don't like the fact that there are people who don't think, believe or act like we do, then we shouldn't want to go to heaven, and we certainly shouldn't play football with them. Bye-bye.